can I say that from this Mother of Parliament, that how much we admire and salute the brave residents of Ashraf and of Liberty for continuing their struggle despite all the brutal and harsh conditions they are forced to endure. And can I say that I hope their perseverance and sacrifice will result in the collapse of the evil regime in Iran and the return to their country of birth as victorious heroes. After 3 bloodbaths against defenceless residents in Ashraf and later Liberty, the protection of the population of Liberty cannot be minimized. Security is not something we can afford to compromise upon. The residents of Ashraf, in a forcible display engineered by the untrustworthy envoy in Iraq, the untrustworthy UN envoy Martin Kobler, were sent to Camp Liberty, a place which, according to General Jones, President Obama's former national security advisor, is worse than Guatemala and is Guantanamo. Camp Liberty was supposed to be a temporary transit station for a limited period of weeks, and as a result the residents were not permitted to take their movable property or indeed to sell them. Nor were the residents' representatives, American dignitaries, generals and officers, allowed to visit Liberty, which was initially said to be 40 square kilometers prior to the move. In other words, they were denied sight of the atrocious conditions and accepted the word of Mr. Kobler. How badly they were let down. The UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention on 2 occasions in 2012 described Liberty as a prison. The UNHCR stresses in a document dated January the 19th, 2012, that the legation failed to meet minimum humanitarian standards, and the Iraqi government failed to heed 5 calls made by High Commissioner Guterres to allow freedom of movement and open the gates of Liberty. How ironical that Liberty should be closed. Despite the residents' protests, 17,500 T-walls, which protected the tenants during the US forces stationed at the camp, were swiftly and intentionally removed by the Iraqi government to inflict more casualties on in future planned attacks. The residents are still deprived of the vests and helmets that protect them from shrapnel, which they had in Ashraf. And that was based on an official and written agreement with US forces. The contaminated environment and unsanitary conditions in Liberty, which included damaged sewage system and overflowing septic tanks, created an outbreak of contagious illnesses. Furthermore, 8 residents were killed and 100 wounded in a missile attack carried out by the Iraqis on the 9th of February. You begin to despair why we sacrificed British lives to create a democracy, a so-called democracy in Iraq, which acts in that manner. There is widespread belief, based on bitter and bloody experience, that Martin Kobler allowed those crimes to take place. And I consequently say today, he should immediately be replaced before the reputation of the United Nations is even further besmirched. According to the UN's HCR Manual on Security of Persons, if the host government, i.e. Iraq, is unable or unwilling to provide adequate security and cannot guarantee the safety and welfare of persons, it should consider the merits of relocating the camp or settlement population. Not to do so flies again directly in the face of what the UN promised and what we expect. I could go on talking about the way the United Nations has failed to act in a humanitarian way, and in fact worse than that, has, from most independent observers' perspective, seemed to have acted in a way deliberately designed to harass, damage and destroy the spirit of the people in liberty. And that is not what the UN is supposed to be doing. So let me finish by once again telling our friends in the camp, in Camps Ashraf and Liberty, that we salute them and we recognize their courage. The beacon that they are holding aloft is a beacon for all of us, because each and every one of them demands a freedom that we take for granted, and if their freedom is encroached upon, our freedom is encroached upon. So let it be known that we are looking forward, A, to the demise of the regime in Iraq, and secondly, we're looking forward to the United Nations acting as it should be acting, getting rid of Martin Kobler and making sure that those brave residents in Ashraf and Liberty are treated in a manner we would want to see them treated.